So here's the question. What would you do if someone gave you the world? In 1999, a man walks into a classroom at Brevard Avenue School, gripping tightly in his hand what he believed was the whole world. Begrudgingly, a teacher greets him at the door. Who are you? Why are you here? The man responds, I recently moved to the neighborhood and the main office told me this is the only room in the school with room for my whole world. I don't remember much about Miss Coleman, but I remember that first interaction between her and my father. My parents were and are still the hardest working people I have ever known. My mother was a nurse at a nursing home. She worked double shifts most days to make sure that ends met. My father owned a grocery store. He woke up at 6 a.m., opened the store by 7, stood on his feet the entire day until the store closed at 10 p.m. without ever taking a day off. Seriously, my graduation day, he took a half day. To them, I was the whole world, and they made sure that every single day I knew that. But still, times weren't easy for us. And all that hard work didn't always line up with what life looks like for me. In Miss Coleman's classroom, I was just another kid, sent there by the main office to annoy her. So she left me in the back of that classroom. And I'm sure Miss Coleman, before she started her work as a teacher, she believed that she was going to inspire teachers, that she was going to change kids' lives. But for me, and all the years and the students that she had taught, Miss Coleman had a jaded experience. And teaching in a rough community like the one where I grew up definitely changed things for her. In the back of that classroom, I would take books that I borrowed from the local library with my mom. And I sat in the back of that classroom every single day while she taught the other students and I read my books. Because I had gone to 9 different schools before 3rd grade, I was ahead of some of the other students in her class. And Ms. Coleman didn't see a reason to differentiate learning for me. So she just left me there. And it wasn't.
I'm sorry for this interruption, but would Nyla, Alina, and Destiny report to the main office, please, immediately?
Teachers. And it wasn't until I met a woman named Barbara Harris that school changed for me. See, before Ms. Harris, I hated school. I hated school because I spent every single day with a person who didn't see value in me, who thought I was no more than that desk in the corner, just there as furniture. But Ms. Harris, a reading coach at our elementary school, would come in to observe. She saw Ms. Coleman, and she questioned Ms. Coleman's decision to leave a student out of her lesson and sitting in the back of her classroom. Ms. Harris saw me. Ms. Harris believed that every kid had potential. So when she questioned Ms. Coleman and Ms. Coleman didn't have a good answer for not teaching every kid in that classroom, she requested that I be sent to her office every single day. In the mornings, I would complete 4th grade math work, and in the afternoons, I read with her. Where Ms. Harris went, I was not far behind. Ms. Harris entered me into reading competitions. She took me to programs like the Read-a-thon at the North Library. And she made sure that she told my parents that I was talented and a hard worker. I learned to love school in Ms. Harris's office. And I'm so grateful now for Ms. Coleman's decision to leave me in the back of that classroom, because had it not been for her, I would have never met Ms. Harris. And I would have begged my parents every single day until eventually the people that loved me caved and took me to a new school. But I didn't beg. And I am so lucky that Ms. Harris passed on the torch to amazing teachers after her that helped encourage me to continue loving school. Like in 4th grade, I met Ulysses McDowell. Mr. Mack could teach Black history and Native American history like something out of a movie to little 4th graders. He let me borrow books off his bookshelf, come to him during his lunch break, you know, that's teacher time, and ask him crazy questions about the things I had read in that book. Mr. Mack told me I was brilliant. In 8th grade, I met this fireball of a teacher, Miss Charity Haygood. And every single day, she pushed her kids harder than any other teacher I had met before. In her class, I read more books than I had read in my life. After school, I would beg my parents on the phone to let me stay with her some nights till 9 p.m. just because I wanted to. And on Fridays, she would take me to my local, she would take me to her youth group at her church. At 13, she heard my dream to become a lawyer, and she connected me to her husband and planned trips for me to go see his law firm in New York City. She helped me write every single application to the magnet schools in my high school, for high school. And then she made sure my mom took me to take every single test. When I got in, she made sure that I worked hard. Between her and her husband, I had a whole new family. I remember weekends where I would spend time reading court cases, Supreme Court cases, with Brian. And I remember going to her house on weekends and having Bible study in the morning. I spent so much time with the Haygoods that my parents, my dad last week told me, he was like, oh, I thought you've been living with them since high school. They were my family. I remember when it was time to apply to college, they made sure that I applied to the best schools. And when I wasn't sure about which school to go to and how I was going to pay for those schools, I remember getting on a plane with Ryan Haygood and flying to Atlanta, Georgia to see Spelman College for the first time. And I remember sitting in the admissions office and him looking at me and saying, you belong here. That's the power of incredible teachers. So it's no wonder that when I flew to Ghana for study abroad, they showed up. And when I graduated from Spelman, they stood beside my parents. And the four of them, who are my mom and dad's, they made up my village. So when I came back to North to be a teacher, of course, they made sure I had somewhere to live. And when I called, they showed up in my classroom and they prayed for my kids. They helped me buy my first car. And they made sure that whenever I asked, they would come into my classroom. He will talk to my children about being a civil rights lawyer, even though they're just 6. At Burgaw, I found home. Ms. Bell, our principal, made sure that every single child in that school knew the Negro National Anthem. Every school event was bathed in Negro spirituals and church choirs. For special events, we wore kente cloth. Ms. Waziri, our art teacher, taught us how to mix paint to make the perfect shades of brown for our self-portraits. At Burgaw, I was taught to be fearless, to stand in front of rooms of people and to speak proudly, to introduce myself to strangers, and to love the people that I came from unconditionally. I'm so grateful for this time. So fast forward to 2013 with a decision facing me to come back to my community, the place that I love, the place that loved me. I was faced with the exact same question that Ms. Coleman got. What would you do if someone gave you the world? And I'll be honest, I still have no idea what the right answer is. I'm working on it every single day. But I knew that if I was going to be a part of someone's life, someone's village, well then I needed to know their people. So I committed to completing a home visit for every single child in that classroom. Because I needed to know the people who believe that they are the whole world. I learned what books they like to read, what games they like to play. The people who know that they matter. And not only do I become a part of their village, but they become my whole world. It's the reason that my godson calls Kevin his godbrother, that my mom calls Kevin her grandson. That little boy is my whole world. He has incredible potential, and he is a brilliant little boy. He's a little bit arrogant. I'm working on it, praying about it a lot. But everything that I get is for him. So when I get an opportunity to go see the African American Museum in Washington, D.C., you better believe I ask, can I have a ticket for him? And when we go to protest youth prisons in New Jersey, I take him because he needs to know what the world thinks about him. And he needs to fight harder and push himself even more to be more than that. It's the reason I pick him up at 7 a.m. and he makes me late every morning. And we talk our way to school about the decisions that we're going to make, whether they're good or bad. And I take him home every day and we do our homework. And I make sure that he knows that he is someone's whole world. And it doesn't end there. When I hear about opportunities like the Colored Girls Museum in Philly, I load my car up and I drive my girls to see it. We eat Philly cheesesteaks in the car. We eat insomnia cookies on our way back. And we talk about how Black women have been treated in this country. And because they stand on those women's shoulders, they don't have a choice but to be incredible. It's the reason that kids we love the most, and teachers know exactly what that means, get told they have incredible amounts of potential. And on their worst days, we still find pictures to send to their parents of how hard they work. And when they invite you to their dance recital, you show up. And together I sit with Destiny's mom, and the two of us make up her whole cheerleading squad. And we cheer louder than that entire auditorium when she gets on that stage. Because she should believe there are actually 30 people in the audience cheering as loudly as they can for her. And we empower her. We tell her that she is capable of going anywhere she wants to. So much so that she convinces her mom on a road trip to Florida to take an 8-hour detour so that she can see the front gate of Spelman, because this crazy teacher in North told her that she could go if she worked hard and believed. It's the reason that Terrell gets taken to see athletes and Olympians like Shakur Johnson when they come back to the city, because he's a dreamer and he knows that he wants to be an athlete. So he has to see the greatness that is already in front of him. And when my kids show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, even though school starts at 7:30, and they come up during my lunch break, and they ask, can they stay late? The answer is always yes, because that's their classroom, and everything that we have belongs to them, and that's their safe space. When a student I taught 4 years ago calls me and is like, hey, will you take me to go see my mom get this award at Be the Change? After a long day of work, I say absolutely yes. I put on that dress and I make sure we leave early enough, because I know that no child is going to sit through an entire ceremony without having a slice of pizza first. And we have an amazing time. When they invite me to the football games, I go. When they ask me to come see them cheer, I'm there. And I stand beside their parents, and I cheer as loudly as the people who loved me cheered for me. Because every kid deserves that. I teach our kids to love the city they come from. So much so that if you ask Idris what he loves about his city, or what he thinks about where he comes from, he says, I believe it's a great and powerful city. He even sees himself as the solution to its problems. At 7, he calls for an end to murder and violence. When I get notes from Oriah, she tells me the reason I'm a good teacher is because I give chances. I have to believe that it's because the chances where I, instead of standing up in front of a room of people, say our class mantra, I ask Oriah to go up and do it. To declare in front of people that she is somebody, and so are they. It's the reason that I plan trips to places I never got to see as a kid. Like the National Museum of Natural History or the Jersey Shore. And after a long week of working their hardest, it's why the kids we love the most get to plan a movie date with me. Because I know how easy it is to make a mistake and how hard you have to work to have a week where you don't make one. And you get celebrated when you don't. And when our kids don't meet the goal, because sometimes they won't, I still send pictures to their parents and I tell them, your child worked really hard today. You should be proud and celebrate them. And truthfully, the work doesn't start when you've taught as long as Miss Harris, or Mr. Mack, or Miss Haygood, or even 4 years later. It starts the day you walk into that classroom. The whole world is sitting in front of you, and you get to make a decision about what you're going to do. So for me, I decided I was going to try my very best to figure out what to do and how to honor the teachers who came before me, and honor the family that loved me, and the parents who sent them, and give them the opportunities that they deserve. I make sure that when they walk into my classroom, I tell them I'm glad you came. And I make sure that not one of them leaves my classroom without hearing I love you. Because who knows the next time they're going to hear that. And I teach them that that love doesn't just belong between the two of us, but they are responsible for loving each other. Because if they don't love each other, then this world won't take care of them. They are responsible to and through college to care for one another. And that love will surprise you sometimes. So I ask you this question. What will you do with the whole world? When you look at your classrooms, do you see the whole world in front of you? Do you see the college graduate and your naughtiest student? Do you see the whole family that loves them and thinks they are the whole world every time you stare at their faces? The truth is, in just a couple of weeks, the whole world is going to be sitting in front of us. What are you going to do with the world? Thank you so much for coming, for sharing in this moment with me. I hope that you are inspired and encouraged to continue to do this work. I love you.